How's it going, everybody? And Sunday Bible study, continuing on in Daniel 8. And out of one of them came forth a little horn, which waxed exceedingly great toward the south, toward the east, and toward the pleasant land. So this is your Antichrist again. And it waxed great even to the host of heaven, and it cast down some of the host and some of the stars to the ground and stamped upon them. Yea, he magnified himself even to the prince of the host, and by him the daily sacrifice was taken away, and the place of the sanctuary was cast down, and an host was given him against the daily sacrifice by reason of the transgression, and it cast down the truth to the ground, and it practiced and prospered. Then I heard one saint speaking, and another saint said unto that certain saint which spake, How long shall the vision concerning the daily sacrifice and the transgression of the desolation, to give both the sanctuary and to the host, be trodden under foot? And he said unto me, Unto 2,300 days, then shall the sanctuary be cleansed. So remember, it's a 3.5 day great tribulation. It was 3.5 years, and Jesus said he cuts those days short. So either this is including the wrath of God, which is a long span of time to cleanse the earth, which I think that's what this is. Anytime you get the 3.5 years, 1,260 days of 42 months, that's the days Jesus cut short. In Daniel, you get um, other sets of days, and I think that's then also including the wrath of God, which is to cleanse the earth, which takes place after the 3.5 days of the abomination of, the 3.5 days of the Great Tribulation. And it came to pass when I, even I, Daniel, had seen the vision and sought for the meaning, then behold, there stood before me as the appearance of a man. And I heard a man's voice between the banks of the Uli, which called and said, Gabriel, make this man to understand the vision. Moving on to Romans 11:17 through 25. Interesting that it's 11:17. Today, this Sunday, is a very high watch day because it would have him rising spiritually, Satan possessing the body, of course, on the third day on the total lunar eclipse. And he was born on a total lunar eclipse. Would he be born again on a total lunar eclipse? Very interesting. Anyway, and if some of the branches be broken, and again, this is 11:17 in our Bible study today, but anyway, 11:17 through 25. Now, again, as we've been telling you in this Romans 11 study, this is about Israel and their blindness and then how it is lifted. And some of the branches be broken off. These are the goat of the bloodline. And thou being a wild olive tree, these now talking about the Gentile sheep, wert grafted in among them. So now they're placed into the salvation vine or the church. Remember, Jesus said he was the vine among them, and with them partakest of the root and the fatness of the olive tree. And see, the two witnesses are represented by an olive tree, and we are all kings and priests. And it could also, be divided into two by bloodline and non-bloodline sheep. But the two witnesses are the church in Revelation 11. And they're represented, there's 5 comparisons, both represented by olive trees, both represented by candlesticks, both persecuted by the Antichrist. After their persecution, there's a great earthquake, and they are also both caught up to Jesus in the clouds. Boast not against the branches, but if thou boast, thou bearest not the root, but the root thee. Thou wilt say then, the branches were broken off that I might be grafted in. Well, because of unbelief they were broken off. In other words, they weren't sheep. And thou standest by faith, be not high-minded, but fear. For if God spared not the natural branches or the bloodline, take heed he also spare not thee. Of course, all sheep predestinated before the earth was made. This is just figurative speech talking about how, in reverence, the sheep that are Gentiles need not to be hating on the bloodline. Behold, therefore, the goodness and severity of God on them which fell, severity, but toward the goodness, if thou continue in his goodness, otherwise thou shalt also be cut off. And all sheep will always remain in goodness once they get that spiritual baptism. And all sheep do. And if they abide not still in unbelief, shall be grafted in. For God is able to graft them in again. And he does, as we get to verse 25. Hang on just a quick second. Got to take care of something. Well, my Bible study reel already has 35 views and it's only been up for 30 minutes. I wonder if people think that tomorrow, Sunday, today, it's 12:35 a.m. could be the day. Anyway, for if thou wert cut off from the olive tree, which is wild by nature, and wert grafted in contrary to the nature into the good olive tree, how much more shall these, which be natural branches, be grafted in into their own olive tree? In other words, being that the Gentiles were well received into the church, how much more will the bloodline be well received when they are brought back to the church, which again, that's at the end times. For I would not, brethren, sheep, that you should be ignorant of this mystery. Well, we're going to unveil this mystery to you. Lest ye be so wise in your own conceits that the sheep that are Gentiles should be conceited again and be hating on the bloodline. That blindness, in part, is happened to the bloodline until the fullness of the non-bloodline be come in. That blindness, in part, has happened to Israel until the fullness of the Gentiles be come in. And that's what we've been talking about. They will get the call at the abomination of desolation after the last Gentile sheep gets quickened in Christ. Then that 144,000 plus is then quickened in Christ at the abomination of desolation. When all the goats will be worshiping the image of the beast, all the sheep will be quickened, and the bloodline are quickened last. Anyway, I'm glad you're here. Love you very much. Ask questions anytime. That's what I'm here for.